Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of Minions of the Zoo. I'm your keeper tonight, Skep Tock. With me, I have Minions Prospero.
Hello.
The Harry Channel.
Good evening.
And good friend of the Minions, Irate Prostate. How are you, sir?
Good evening, folks. How are you?
Oh, if I got any better, I'd have to hire somebody to help me enjoy it. It's been a good day, all things considered. I have a new puppy, which is kind of fun. And it's just a foster puppy, so I get to keep her for a couple of weeks, and then I'm handing her off to my stepdaughter. But they had she got a short-term contract. She's an RN, and with all the specialized COVID training on top of it, and so she just goes from place to place, works these really lucrative job offers, and lives in the 40-foot dream trailer that she bought for herself with the money she's making as a nurse. True story. And but they found this puppy that they couldn't not live without. She said, "No, I've got two more weeks in Yuma. I'm not going to. I don't want to subject the puppy to that." So I said, "I volunteer. I'll take the puppy."
Yeah.
It's a little dachshund puppy, short-haired, black and tan, just cute as she can be.
Oh goodness!
Yeah,
With
big fun.
The ultimate boopable snooches.
Yeah, that's big fun. So anyway,
Anything
interesting? What's that?
Short-haired dogs are great.
Oh, they are the best.
They really are.
There's so much people don't realize how hard it is to properly groom a dog, particularly a dog like a poodle. We groom Chloe ourselves, and it's an hour out, out of 2 weeks, but it's a hard hour out of 2 weeks. You have to hit that stuff twice a month or they just get filthy, and you got to bathe them constantly. It's a deal. But anyway, so Harry, what did you do today? Have a fun day?
No.
Wow.
I worked all day today. God, how many billable hours did I do today? A lot.
Yeah. More than in the day?
11.
11. Okay.
Ugh.
Allowing some time for sleep. That's a pretty good work day, actually.
Yeah.
Good on you.
No, I mean, it was interesting. Just a lot of work. It's good to have a lot of work. That's a great problem to have. So
oh my gosh.
Don't get me wrong. Every now and then somebody will say, "I'm really sorry I wasted your time," and I'm just thinking, I get paid by the hour. I don't care.
Yeah.
you can waste my time all you want as long as you up the PO.
As long as you hear that ching and you're not bothered by it.
It's not my time you're wasting.
Yeah.
It's a different resource.
I've always been like this. I've always worked very, very hard. It's just the work ethic that I grew up with. The last 2 years of high school, I was going full-time to junior college as well.
Right.
And so I cleverly arranged it so I wouldn't burn myself out too badly that I took a swimming class in high school at 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And it was it bothered most people, but I actually really, really enjoy swimming when it's cold because you kind of work up that body heat. And as you're doing laps, your face comes up out of the water, and as you're sort of turning, and it's like cold, but your face is really hot because you're exerting so much energy.
Yeah.
It's this weird combination of your internal core is trying to melt down, but you're just surrounded by cold air and cold water. It's really a pretty good way to start the morning.
If you say so.
I do say so.
Like it hurts.
I love swimming. I love it quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a good thing to turn your children into water babies. That's a rule that we have. Even our delinquent children can swim like fish.
Oh, good.
And we just lay down the law. You are going to learn to swim. It's just, you're going to all the swimming lessons. You're going to practice. We're going to drill you. If you ever go in an unplanned entry into the water, I want you to have a fighting chance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I told you how I got rid of the floaty things as a little kid.
Yes.
They started throwing quarters in the pool and said, if you can dive for it, it's yours. Cool.
Can't dive with those floaty things on.
I was at the Ojai Valiant and Country Club, and other people started joining in. Here, kid, swim.
I know where Ojai is.
Yeah.
That's
I saw Florence Henderson that day.
Did you really?
I did.
Was she throwing you quarters?
No, she wasn't throwing me quarters. We were seated in the dining room, and she and her family, or her posse, were at the table next to us. And I was a little kid, and I was just like, all kind of starstruck. Okay. It was the first time I'd ever met a celebrity, but I was like 5. So,
Mrs. Brady.
You're allowed to be dumb when you're 5. I think that's okay.
Many people don't get past that, Harry. So, yes, you are allowed at 5.
Yeah.
How about you, Prospero? How was your day?
It was lovely. Thank you.
Did you do anything fun?
Yeah, we went over to the illumination of the barn at our new hood, or our two, which was very pretty because they've outlined the barn and the cupolas and lights. And it was, lovely. And they were collecting toys for tots. They have a couple boxes out there.
Mm-hmm.
It was jammed full with stuff lying to the side. So they got that much loot, and the boxes will be there until the 9th. So that's good. Old
This is the Marine Corps sponsored
yes,
Toys for Tots.
Toys for Tots, yeah.
You familiar with their reputation?
Yeah. They've had they had a bad run there for a while.
Yeah, they did.
A lot of charities did.
The egregious mismanagement of Toys for Tots, though, was the subject of business case thesis done at the doctoral level in business schools.
I believe it.
Bad.
I believe it. I look forward to the theses being done on what the Salvation Army did and then backed away from doing when they discovered that the people they were trying to shame were the ones that gave them all their money. Because they were trying to pull the white guilt business. Of course, their headquarters, I believe, are in Alexandria. So it kind of goes to show what Northern Virginia is.
I'm surprised they're not on K Street.
Yeah, okay. Well, the Salvation Army for so many years had a spotless reputation, always well ranked on Charity Navigator.
Yeah.
Doing
the Red Cross.
Doing the Lord's work. Yeah, and the Salvation Army maintained their reputation longer than the Red Cross did.
I know.
But then they went and fucked it this season because they want to put out the kettle, and then they want to tell people they need to apologize for being white. You really think you're going to get any white people to put any money in that kettle?
Yeah.
So they've walked that back. I think they're fucked for this year.
Yeah.
And maybe several years to come, because I don't trust them anymore.
No, I don't trust them anymore. I won't put $1 in a kettle.
It's like I don't trust the Red Cross after what they did at 9/11.
And I won't give a dime. I used to give money to the Red Cross, gave quite a bit of money after 9/11. And when that lady came out and said 50% of your money is going to go to the people affected by 9/11, we're sorry if you thought something different, but the others are money is needed by other worthy programs of the Red Cross. We know you'll be happy to support. I was not happy to support, and I wrote them off forever because that's the way my black little heart works.
Well, they also put a large amount of that money toward a new phone bank.
They just swept it into. I know what they did. I can tell you the exact appropriation they swept it into, and it was like a general fund,
Do you think that shit would have happened when Liddy Dole was heading that organization?
Oh, Jesus.
Christ, I'm amazed that she didn't just burst into flames when the news came out.
He was just trying to get away from Bob when he got that Viagra prescription.
Captain Pogo Stick.
Liddy, I need you again, honey.
Let's make the beds again. Oh, Lord have mercy. But
that's disturbing. How about you, Irate? Did you have a good day today?
I did as much as possible to turn off my brain.
Really?
Lobotomize for the afternoon, and I did a good job of it. Yeah, I've been working kind of balls to the wall on some stuff. Got a busy week,
Yeah.
and
Did you get some sleep today?
oh yeah, well, I sure did.
Isn't that
So
lovely?
yeah, and
Naps are underrated.
They sure are.
And even if you say they're terrific, they're underrated.
no doubt.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, sometimes waking up from the nap that makes me sad. It was like that was so wonderful. Can't I just keep doing it?
Great thing is,
right.
when you die, you get to do it permanently.
Yeah, I know. I try to remind myself of that as I crawl out of the
looking forward to that myself.
crawl out of the haze. Yeah.
So other than just kind of rest and recuperation, you haven't been paying too much attention to the world at large.
I've been watching a lot of Rob Noor because I'm doing a special ice cream thing Thursday, and I'm going to be interviewing him.
Okay,
dude, I've been watching him slay libs. That dude is good. It's like when you watch somebody debate so articulately and so quickly and passionately, it's like I just wish I could do that. I suck at debate. But when you see somebody that's really good at it do it, you're just like, damn, dude. It's almost like watching a pro ball game or something.
I always admire people who are able to keep their temper. That's my problem in debate. I just want to scream, "Are you out of your fucking mind?"
Right.
And it's just it's my impatience gets in the way of looking for the flaws in the argument, as opposed to I've just heard a string of word salad, and because so many people debate in Michael Eric Dyson's style of just slinging words into the wind and hoping they form sentences.
Gish gallop.
Yeah, gish gallop. Well, and also just word salad.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute word salad. And it's pointless to debate people like that. Absolutely pointless. Because all he is a rhetorician. And the only reason he can get away with any of it is Christopher is dead. Because good God, could you imagine what that man would have done with someone like Michael Eric Dyson?
What was that? You okay? Hello?
Mine host.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. We heard a clunk. And we wanted to make sure you were still on the sunny side of the dirt.
Yeah. No shit. That's a thunk. Oh fuck. Oh, how are we gonna do this?
Yeah, really.
Right.
Do we play taps?
There could be worse.
Do we play taps and just all leave?
Just you're just on stream and then suddenly gone. It could be worse.
Yeah, I guess.
Go out doing what I love.
Yeah.
All right. So that didn't work very well. All right. So it's okay. I read an interesting article by someone who knows a lot of the same people I know. I've met this guy, and he is a psychologist, and he wrote an article. I'm just going to read the article to you, and this is a very summary article, so this is extremely high level. So there's no, deep information or anything like that. But the abstract on it is: searching the internet for information makes people feel smarter than they actually are, according to new research published by the American Psychological Association. So it's the searching the internet for information. That act may make people feel smarter than they actually are. And I have some questions about this. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they talk about the internet as such a powerful environment where you can enter any question and you can basically have access to the world's knowledge at your fingertips, said lead researcher Matt Fisher, the guy I've met. And he says it becomes easier to confuse your own knowledge with this external source. When people are truly on their own, they may be wildly inaccurate about how much they know and how dependent they are on the internet. And in a series of experiments, here's what they did. Participants who searched for information on the internet believed they were more knowledgeable than a control group about topics unrelated to the online searches. In a result that surprised the researchers, participants had an inflated sense of their own knowledge after searching the internet, even when they couldn't find the information they were looking for. After conducting internet searches, participants also believed their brains were more active than the control group did. The research was published online in the Journey of Experimental Psychology. For 9 experiments, a range of 152 to 302 participants were recruited online, with different participants taking part in each experiment. In one experiment, the internet group used online searches to research 4 questions. For example, how does a zipper work? And provided a website link with the best answer. The control group was given the exact text from the most common website used by the internet group to answer the questions. Both groups then rated their ability to answer other questions, such as, why are cloudy nights warmer? Completely unrelated to what they searched on topics unrelated to the internet searches. Although they didn't have the answer to those questions, the internet group members consistently rated themselves as more knowledgeable than the control group rated themselves about those unrelated topics. And it says the internet group reported an inflated sense of personal knowledge after internet searches, even when its members could not find complete answers to very difficult questions, such as, why is ancient Kushite history more peaceful than Greek history? Or when they found no answers at all because of Google filters that were used. Okay, the cognitive effects of being in search mode on the internet may be so powerful that people still feel smarter even when their online searches reveal nothing, said study co-author Frank Keel, a psychology professor at Yale University. In another experiment, participants who did online searches thought their brains would be more active than the control group, and they chose magnetic resonance images of a brain with more active areas highlighted as representative of their own brains. This result suggests that the participants searching the internet believed they had more knowledge in their head rather than simply thinking they knew more because they had access to the internet. So there's actually this follow-on effect to searching for information on the internet that makes you think you're more knowledgeable about everything.
Oh.
And, and then, they point out an inflated sense of personal knowledge could also be dangerous in the political realm or other areas involving high stakes decisions, Matt Fisher said. And I just thought to myself, an inflated sense of personal knowledge in the political realm, what politician doesn't have that? But
Yeah.
at any rate, it said in cases where decisions have big consequences, it could be important for people to distinguish their own knowledge and not assume they know something when they actually don't, he said. The internet is an enormous benefit in countless ways, but there are some trade-offs that aren't immediately obvious. This may be one of them. Accurate personal knowledge is difficult to achieve, and the internet may be making that task even harder. And here's the question that I have that underlies this. If you search the internet for something and you find the answer and you know that answer, is your knowing that answer the same as knowing as a person who has studied that field for years and years and has a PhD in that discipline and so forth? Or it is your knowledge so bereft of context and other potentially related things that are related to it that your knowledge is less valuable? I tend to think that that's generally true, but I would. When do you actually know something? I can say that I can give my opinion about what's in the middle of a black hole. And, how I, think that neutrons are just crushed down until there's just, effectively nothing left except the constituent material of neutrons. And, I can say that I know that, but do I really know that? I don't know that for sure. That I know that theory. I understand that theory. Somebody who has an appreciation for the math that goes into the calculation that concludes those things is going to have a much richer field of knowledge, a much richer surrounding knowledge than I will have. And it is kind of a problem with people going off on the internet and they find some fact that they latch onto. It sounds good to them, and they have so little knowledge about the rest of the world. They think they can take their own this little fact and run with it. That's good stuff. That's reality. That's the way the world works. I tend to think most of the left's more bizarre positions are supported in just this fashion. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think I lost you on that last paragraph. What was this thing about the left losing their position?
Well, I think a lot of the crazies on the left and the right, for that matter, they seize on some little fact about something and they manufacture the rest of reality to conform with whatever little prejudice that some fact suits them. Oh, that's because
confirmation bias.
Yeah, confirmation bias is a great example.
Tribalism, confirmation bias.
Right.
A lot of it's just, when people stop and think for too long, start thinking deeply, the world can be a pretty scary place. And places where you retreat to get away from that are sort of this sense that you're talking about, gossip, superstition, things like that. There's places where people go rather than think about all the things that they don't know. It's a very uncomfortable feeling for most people to
it is.
Not have control over their place in the universe. So if you give somebody like that a machine, the Google machine, it's not surprising that they have the response that you're talking about. I think if you want to see if somebody really knows something, it's like everybody here has taken a class that they didn't want to take and crammed for a test that they didn't want to take in a subject they don't care about, only to realize that, 2 weeks after the final's done, it's like, you got my grade, it's gone. I mean, there's nothing there. Your attachment to that information is so loose, so tenuous.
Yes.
That
it's just linear algebra for me.
You just hope that they're not going to ask you to use a blue book, because you're not going to be able to use any of this information that you came by really easily and crammed in your head to do anything. You won't be able to relate it to other pieces of information because you only know what you knew from the night before, instead of knowing all sorts of things that you've accumulated over your life that you can relate to each other.
So it's like junk food knowledge.
It's like Halloween candy, like bottle caps or Smarties or Rockets or whatever. I mean, it's just pure
candy
sugar
corn
with a little bit of artificial food coloring.
Yeah, gotcha.
You'd probably get more nutrition out of the little packet of iron filings to keep it from decaying. Don't eat the packet. Don't eat the preservative packet.
The spurg hole that this is at the end of for me was something that started off when I was watching two black lions of liberalism getting the news that President Trump's the unemployment rate under President Trump's regime was effectively zero for Black people and for Hispanics. It was, and certainly was the lowest in recorded history. Effectively, it was effectively zero at one point. And I was watching the prune faces of these people because this was something that was absolutely undeniable. It absolutely was just in front of them. It's a hard fact, and there's just no getting around it. You like you like high employment for Black people, don't you, Mr. Professional Black person? Well, maybe. I don't know. Sometimes, Anyway, so that got me off chasing about why do people think they're experts? Why do people, think, my opinion is backed up by facts because I heard Don Lemon say that President Trump was a bad person. And I have that fact. to back me up. You know, that's an example of the kind of junk knowledge that I'm talking about.
Oh, if you lived in California, you'd get that all the time. I've had really smart people just look at me and say, you know, I hear you saying all these things about how I shouldn't be worried, but you do realize that man is just evil. It's like,
Right.
oh, really?
Yeah, exactly.
And these are good people that I care about. And it bothers me that you're dealing with, you know, this whole logos, ethos, pathos thing. And I really like being in the logos sphere, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that the other stuff's important. But these just appeals to, well, it's not fair, therefore banana. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The idea of fairness to me is really interesting. That people seem to think that. So you accept the fact the world isn't fair, and then you go, well, we should make the world fair. Oh God, no.
Yeah. You don't want that common denominator, honey.
Yeah,
Well,
your solution is not fit for purpose. And that's the thing they don't understand. They think they're doing a good thing by trying to make the world fairer.
Yes.
And I think that it should be fair in terms of the way the rules apply to people, but you can't force the world to be fair.
That would be just, actually.
Yeah.
And there's an enormous difference between just and fair. And that's a lot of, they're used interchangeably, unfortunately. Part of this is the linguistic slide in meaning that we've allowed to occur. When people speak of fair play on a sports field, they want justice, basically, equal application of the rules. And it's got folks very, very confused, because you cannot make the world fair. Because in order to do it the way they want to do it, someone has to be fiddling. A number of someones have to be fiddling with the system to make it fair. And because they are in control, they are therefore not on the same level with everyone else. So it's automatically unfair.
Yeah. Fairness is very different from justice. Justice derives from the term justified, which means that an action was justified under, you know, some set of circumstances, where fair refers to an action that treats people according to what someone believes they deserve to be treated, you know, whatever the point of view that is.
Highly subjective. Yeah.
Many times actions that are just, they are justified, are not fair.
Of course not. The law, by and large, is not fair.
Well, a great example is a football game.
Yeah.
And the referees and shit, right?
Yeah, you want them to, if you call the penalties equally as you see them, please. Don't favor one team over another. Don't
bet on the game.
Don't bet on the game. Don't be blind when one particular team commits sins, and very diligent when others don't. I mean, I'm perfectly comfortable with that meaning of the word fair. But when people say they want the world to be a fair place, they're knuckin' futs to begin with, because
it's highly unrealistic.
Well, it flies against everything about species hierarchies. It's biologically it's unsound, psychologically it's unsound, but it's so typical of the group of people who do this, because they don't actually believe in the science they like to yell at people to believe. They believe in unicorn science. Fairy dust and pixie farts are going to fix everything. And look, it's lovely when you're 3. It's tragic when you're 33. It's pathetic when you're 63. It's right. Just, I will never have the same quick twitch muscle response as some dude in Kenya, okay? It's just not going to happen. I wasn't going to have it at any age. Biology goes against me in that. You know, it's not fair that you have blue eyes. I mean, people will get down to that. And, you know, as Harry said, God help us, you know, in these people's visions of what fairness is. They haven't read Harrison Bergeron, that's for goddamn sure.
What is the story of Harrison Bergeron? I know it, of course, but for our fans out there, you make a reference like that is not obscure to you and me.
To make an equitable society, you must handicap those who have graces or skills or talents above the others.
And so, what was the story of Harrison Bergeron?
Dystopia. That's what the story. I don't want to tell the story. I want to get people to read. It's a short story, folks.
I just want to give them some context, and the nuts and bolts of the story are that Harrison Bergeron is living in a time where equality of outcome is managed by someone referred to as the handicapper general.
Yep.
What's her name? Doris Glampers or something like that.
It's something hideous like that.
Yeah, and
it's one of Vonnegut's names. Well, Vonnegut could come up with names that just sounded
Kurt Vonnegut too.
Sounded malign.
Kilgore Tribe.
You know, or they sounded amusing. Yeah, and I mean the ballerina who is graceful must wear sandbags.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to people who have high levels of intelligence and concentration, you basically have to blare sound at them all the time so they can't concentrate and think.
Yeah,
you know,
the 14-year-old Harrison Bergeron, an intelligent, athletic, and good-looking teenager, is taken away from his parents, George and Hazel, by the government, and they are barely aware of the tragedy, as Hazel has average intelligence, a euphemism for stupidity, and George has a handicap radio installed by the government to regulate his above-average intelligence, which blares in his ears so he can't concentrate. Mm-hmm. And at any rate, it's the story of Diana Moon Glampers, the handicapper general, enters the studio with a 10-gauge double-barreled shotgun and kills Harrison and the Empress. She threatens the musicians at gunpoint to put on their handicaps again. That's when they all pull their handicaps off, and the music gets really good. The musicians are able to concentrate on their music and so forth.
That's what you get if you want equity, actual equity. You get worse than mediocrity. You get utter dysfunction. You know, and you end up in an autocratically controlled, and there again, it's not an equitable society because Diane Glampers has the power.
Well, somebody has to be in charge.
Well, there you go. That's the hierarchical nature of the species, is it not? And that's what the lie is. You know, it's like communism sounds great, doesn't it? Yeah, except there's a leader. And while all the rest of you plebs are wallowing in the field, the leader is getting fat and happy, and his chosen entourage. It's no different than a very, very bad king. You know, it's actually a very twisted form of monarchy where the serfs are constantly punished. It's these notions, as they say, evolution doesn't stop at the neck. We have we are a hierarchical species. That's not strange. So are primates across the board. So are a lot of species. And but ants are communal. Oh, do they have a queen?
Yeah. the queen doesn't rule. The queen just breeds. She's really the breeding outlet. But if she dies, they fall apart.
There's a differentiation of task within the
Oh,
group.
very definitely.
It is not all equity, and it's just these foolish observations that are very surface and don't have a particular. It's like Hazel is doing all the thinking. Harrison's mother. There's a lot of midwittery in charge of things.
Oh yeah.
Mostly because smart people don't want to be in charge of all that shit.
Wait, getting back up to the higher level just for a minute. Do you think that the internet allows people to develop essentially a world of their own?
Yes.
Where they think they are much more intelligent and much more attractive and so forth than they are? Because I really do believe it does.
Mm-hmm. There are loads and loads of small ponds that have been created, and people are the big fish in those ponds.
Yeah, we call them hug boxes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I even mean at the individual level, where a person who just sits there and absorbs either the liberal or the conservative line is incurious as to what's really going on and is willing to parrot Dinesh D'Souza or Don Lemon, according to which side of the fence that they're on.
No, it feeds confirmation bias. Yeah, and it's we're all prone to it. We have our particular political viewpoints. Very few people are utterly agnostic when it comes to politics.
Oh no, most people are highly opinionated,
and we like things that support our personal theses.
When you get to the point where you cannot be convinced, even when facts are brought to you and your nose is rubbed in the facts, and you simply say something like, "Well, belief is a choice, and I choose not to believe these facts."
Yeah,
I have different facts. I have
alternate facts.
Yeah, I have alternate physics. Right, exactly.
Yeah, I have alternate.
My lived experience is a flat Earth.
I have alternate biology. I have.
Right.
Yeah, it's quite magnificent.
Furry thinking.
Well, yeah, and as I have recently said several times, that without cognitive dissonance, a lot of these people would fly into bits. I mean, they would literally atomize right in front of us, because
their cogniz is really them flying into bits. I mean,
it is
the pathology of cognitive dissonance.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you were doing a psychological analysis of them, they've already
them up to pieces.
They've flown into bits because their reasoning capability is collapsed to that of a tantruming 3-year-old. It is going to be their way, or everybody has to die. I mean, you look at the stridency and the foot stamping rage that people represent. And one thing social media does in that hug box is it provides all the strokes for the people that rage, and then they get strokes for raging. You tell it, girl. You preach, that kind of thing that people are going to say. And always beware of people that are flattering you.
Yeah.
And there's an awful lot of false flattery in social media. That little dopamine hit we get from the likes.
You're kidding.
And the shares and that kind of thing. And when people are saying, "You're so smart, I really love your analysis," I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's nice." But a little self-deprecation mixed in there goes well. I can bullshit with the rest of them.
Yeah.
I cannot take a compliment. I hate it.
Well, I don't. I can take one if it's sincere, but it takes a lot for me to recognize a sincere one, because I have a problem in that, being an only child, I was raised highly performatively. which is, I think, very natural. I mean, most children are raised performatively to some extent, but you're the focus of all the praise as well as all the criticism.
Right.
Which is nice, except that praise can really bend you.
Oh, yeah.
It can really bend you. And that is something I have had to struggle with for a very long time. I have a highly inflated sense of my self-worth at times.
I love Assassin of the Great just said Vonnegut predicted ableism and Karens.
Yes. Yeah, he did manage to. Vonnegut predicted a lot of things.
That's a fair statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But ableism, yeah, boy, that term. What the fuck?
Yeah.
People get so upset by the term normal when mainly people were talking about the mean, average, the just what is the most common reflection of. If you ask people to draw a human being, they're not going to draw them, generally speaking. You're not going to see people draw people with limbs missing, with eyes missing, clearly with signs of some form of disability or deformity. It's just not going to be done because the average human is, the majority is, and that has been painted now as very wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very wrong to know what the average is, to know what normal is. Now, I don't.
There's a really good comment by Irate Prostate in private chat, and he says, "I wonder what Aiden Paladin would say about this." I would like to know that myself. I
was talking about the thing you were reading, the paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she has said similar things about. Well, she's definitely spoken on a lot of similar topics. She's one of those people that has actually kind of moved the needle for me on more than a few things. So she's pretty influential. It's hard to argue with the amount of research that she does.
She does. Her research is really pretty complete and well thought out generally.
And it's actual research. It's not reading an article on the internet.
Well, I mean, that can be research too.
It can be part of it.
What she does is she goes in depth into, academic papers just to tease out one particular point that supports or refutes, whatever proposition she's investigating. And she's really good at finding that deep academic literature and then rendering out what they really meant in it. She does a lot of very thankless work.
She reads a lot of Drek.
She reads a lot of crap. She really does.
Yeah.
And when I met her at MythCon and took that fabulous picture of us strolling around the main floor together, arms around each other, like we were best friends. It was she talked about the fact that the answers are out there. You just have to know where they live and be able to go and find the answers to the kind of that meta stack of questions that you have about whatever it is you're investigating. She said the amount of psychological research that's out there, and we were talking about quantitative versus qualitative psychological research, and she's a big believer in both. She's not pure quant, and a lot of people seem to think that she is, but she's not. She just believes that psychology and for that matter, social psychology, sociology, anthropology, and so forth. These can be done rationally. They can be done with a certain amount of rigor, and can be done with considerably more common sense, and not simply used as props to support it.
Treated as a discipline.
And that really makes her crazy.
Well,
is to see her stuff being used to back one side or the other.
Well, treat it as a discipline of inquiry. Don't treat it like one of the problems with the social sciences is people are going, you know how people will cull research purely for that which supports their point of view. I mean, we've all written those term papers in school, right? Where you ignore the quotes that refute your thesis. And everybody's guilty of that degree of academic laziness and
Not me.
the constant term papers that you end up writing, which are like worthless exercises, most of them. Why not just write a really, really good paper, one paper, per course? But no, I'm going to need this and, get out your books. I want a theme,
Yeah.
and it's that confirmation bias isn't checked particularly well in the social sciences, in part because the group of people that are of the professorial class there and the student class there have all been culled pretty much from the same point of view, worldview.
Mhm.
It's why conservatives find it so difficult in university. That the number of people in the 70s and 80s and college professors of economics who are Marxists, is rather extraordinary if you go through people's CVs and look what they were writing and that kind of thing.
Let me ask you a question. If you knew that somebody had an anthropology degree from Antioch or Oberlin, and another person had one from Hillsdale College, would the college make a difference to you?
It could. I'd have to look, this is funny. I would have to look at the coursework called for by those different schools.
Well, looking through Oberlin's, it would be stuff like lesbian dance theory.
Yeah.
And looking through Hillsdale, it will be fundamentals of Evans Pritchard, ethnographies level 1, and you take that for the entire year.
Okay, well then I am going to throw more weight to the graduate from Hillsdale, because they're going to have been involved in the actual foundational literature
right
within the discipline. It doesn't
instead
mean
of
somebody can't
nice
escape.
feeling garbage.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there is some people achieve escape velocity in liberal colleges, but they're few and far between. They usually come out barfing out the same shit their professors told them.
That's what makes me sad.
Professors stroke that shit.
Yeah, they do.
Right?
Oh yeah.
If you
they don't do their job at all.
Right. If you want to make a good grade in most colleges, you imitate your professor.
Yeah, it's one thing to kiss her ass a little bit. It's another thing to never, ever be asked to challenge a point of view.
They want to be deep-throated.
Well, yeah, a lot of them do. They have very fragile egos because they're 98 patent weaklings who live in the library.
When I was going to college, if you showed up for a session with the professor to beg for a grade, or you had not done the reading, and you could expect to be quizzed on that.
Yes.
He would say, "I've got no time for you. If you want to come to me and talk to me about this course, you can goddamn well read the material."
Yeah. And I mean, yes, there were always instances of special pleadings. I'm sorry my mother died, that kind of thing. But
I'm talking about that.
But no, if you did not show up unprepared to a class, or you were going to get found out. And when you were unprepared, because every single one of us were at one time or another, don't lie, except for you, Harry, you and your work ethic.
You mean how I do all the work the year before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were the kid. You were the kid that made it hard for the rest of us. But every one of us would, I always sat toward the front of a class, in part because otherwise I was going to be able to let my mind wander. And my point was to be in a position where I could not, because it would be obvious to the lecturer. So I had to pay attention. It was my own trick with myself. But, you want to sit in the back when when you're not prepared. We've all had that just god awful sensation of please don't call me, please don't call me, please don't call me, for an entire lecture, because you just didn't get the work done.
Yeah.
You either were tangled up in other work, or you pissed it all off and went out for pizza with your friends the night before, and you weren't going to get up early and do it. Excuse me. This was
What?
college, motherfucker.
It's going to go on your permanent record.
Yeah. Well, but it's different. It's different because it depends on whether you have a decent relationship with a professor, because you can punt with professors that know you. I mean, they'll give you the stink eye and they'll give you shit about it, but they're not going to fail you based on that one time. You do it again, they're going to start beginning to look at you like they look at the slackers. And we all know how they looked at the slackers, because we all sat there going, thank God that's not me.
There were times when I was at school, there was one course that I took. I didn't pay attention to the course syllabus. And I had this guy for another course, and I knew that he was going to be going over the material from the previous course, that was the first part of this course, and I was taking it for the second part of the course. And he was also my thesis advisor, and so he had to take all his courses. So I kept cutting his class. And I kept thinking, I've got to go to class one of these days. So I finally decided one more, and it was 8 o'clock class, South Campus, had to trudge through the snow, all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
I got down there, and people had blue books on their desks.
Oh, Jesus.
I had showed up on the first midterm.
Oh, good for you. You showed up in the middle of everybody's anxiety dream.
Yeah, exactly. So the door had a window in it one of these long windows that you could look in, the classroom door. And I looked through there. I saw, God, they're taking the midterm. I am screwed. Mm-hmm. It's too late to drop the course. So I went
know.
back.
You do the calculus.
I head back to the fraternity house. And I said, I'm going to have to call him and tell him I overslept. That's why they'll pray to God nobody saw me. And, you talk about a walk of shame, 3/4 mile walk of shame back to my fraternity house. Went back in, decided, well, the best thing I can do is get loaded. I should get loaded before I call him. And so I got stoned, made the phone call, and I just said, Ken, 100. I slept past your midterm this morning, and he made the comment. He said, I haven't seen a lot of you in class. Have you been sitting in the back or something? And he knew me a little bit, and I talked to him. Don't really remember much about the conversation, but he basically said, yeah, just we'll make your grade all dependent on your final project. 2 days before the final project is due to be turned in, it has to be at least a 20-page term paper and that's net of notes. So notes and bibliography are in addition to the 20 pages written. And so like 2 days before this, and I wrote a goddamn great, amazing term paper in 2 days. I put myself to it and just stayed up for 2 nights in a row, wrote this excellent term paper. I still remember Jiggaroo and the concept of law in New Guinea, and turned it in. And the guy said, "This is postdoc work. This is excellent. It's almost a perfect dissection of Jiggaroo. A+. I still have that paper in my room here. It was the biggest grade I ever pulled out of my ass.
Yeah, it's the there, but for the grace of God, go I.
But you show up and they're taking the midterm.
Oh, I was stopped after graduation.
Taking the fucking
That's
midterm.
my night. That is
your
my
heart jumps into your throat. You just kind of go, ah! Am I wearing pants?
Yeah. That's one of my living nightmares, is that I can't find a classroom. It's too late to drop the class. And when I get there, there's an exam and I haven't attended any of the class or read any of the coursework, and I've got to take this exam. Now, see, I'm fully in the room. There's no window in that door. I go busting in and I'm fucked. Yeah, that was it's wow.
That was an interesting experience. This guy's an eminent person. He has a page in Wikipedia. Francis LK HSU is his name, and he was a great guy. I always thought that he suspected me.
Probably did.
I had to take one more of his classes, and I got it. I barely made an A. I got an A- over B+, and which grades to an A back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But that was I always got the feeling he gave me a very tough time in there because he thought I took advantage of him in the second course. He wasn't wrong.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. I only ever had to do a special pleading, and it was after I got a paperback where the commentary on it from the professor was wildly critical. He'd given me a C and just shit all over the paper. And I went to him and I said, "Can I ask you what this is about? Because I don't think this paper is as bad as you seem to think it is, punctuation aside. I don't understand what your problem is with it. I mean, I genuinely don't. I'm actually quite shocked." And he ended up, I think, rereading it. And it was almost as if he had grabbed the last page of my paper to write his commentary on after reading someone else's paper. I've often wondered if that's not what happened, because it was disproportional butt reaming for what I had written. I mean, I knew I spewed bullshit, especially literature class. You know, because what are you writing in literature classes? I mean, lit crit. Come on, it's generally is. I hate to be this crass, but it generally is bullshit. Did this sound smart and like I read the book and shit? You know, I couldn't. I mean, I love literature and the discussion of it, but lit crit papers just gave me hives. I was like, God, you know, what do you want me to write?
Not a great field for you then.
No, because I found most of it was just personal taste. Very, very, very subjective subject matter. But it was a paper on a Shakespeare play too, and it was like, dude, it's not like I don't understand what it's about. And that was, I mean, that and other than that professor constantly being aggrieved with me about my punctuation, until I told him that if I were ever to be published, I'd have an editor. And that was their job. And he stood there for a second and just kind of winced and said, "Oh, crap. You know, just never mind. Get out of my office."
I never get a job as a proofreader that way.
Yeah, well, I didn't want a job as a proofreader, and he knew it.
You know, cool pen and everything.
Which is hilarious, because I can't tell you the number of times people have given me stuff to proof. And I'm like, why are you doing this? That's not what this is not my strong suit. Apparently, my suit's stronger than I knew compared to the average tomato. But it's that Skep. I can't imagine anything more horrible than the way the fucking midterm. Blue books. You know. It's just...
Yeah. That absolutely was a point in my life when I realized, okay, pushing the envelope is fine, but you can tear the envelope.
Yeah,
I think we came perilously close to tearing the envelope today.
I was thrown out of a class in college.
Yeah.
I mean, I was told I was going to be failed. for non-attendance, even though there wasn't an attendance requirement for seniors, nor was there one listed in the syllabus. I was taking it as an elective. And the professor literally sat down and told me that no matter what I did, no matter what grades I got on my paper, on my exams, he was going to fail me. And I was like,
okie dokie then.
I know. If I had been in...
Why did he like you so much?
I made a fool out of him in class, and that's the day he told me that. And I didn't make that big of a fool out of him, but he was at... Okay, look. The last thing I need is to read Huckleberry Finn for the 18th time, right? In a college American literature class. And he's standing up there, and he's doing the Jungian analysis of Huckleberry Finn. Talking.
So he's doing like symbology of Huckleberry Finn.
Oh, absolutely. The Earth is a mother symbol, and the river is a transitory symbol, and blah blah blah.
Archetypes,
blah.
right?
Oh God,
archetypes.
Yeah. Every fucking archetype, and I'm like, okay,
the transient nature of
God, fuck me,
life,
okay?
and
shit, you know,
times.
And you're ruining a great novel, okay, buddy? You're just fucking this novel to death with your stupid analysis and your boot black hair.
Nobody ever told him that was a bad idea.
Well, I raised my hand and I said, I have a question. In the very preface of this book, Mark Twain himself says this here is just yarn.
Yeah.
Don't read anything else into it. I'll need to speak with you after class. And that was that.
Boom.
And I went to see him. If I'd been a lit major, I'd have gone to the chairman of the department. And I would have raised Mary Hill.
Were you paying for your education?
Yeah.
As a consumer, you have a right to a better product.
Oh, well, the interesting thing is I couldn't drop that class, and I couldn't drop the class and live on campus. Where was I going to live? I was 550 miles from home. So I went to one of the counselors at Psych Services that I knew.
What about a high-powered rifle and take the bell power?
No, I just
you
went.
Could have gone that route.
I went and she gave me a pass.
A Knoll-rich environment
to stay on campus. That I was having emotional difficulties. I was having emotional difficulties controlling my temper. You know, I could have glad. Do you know that I'm ignoring him. 30
years.
Used
myself way too much.
Oh, that's so good, Harry.
30 years after that, when I saw that fucker had died, I said, good. I mean, that's how mad he made me.
I spit on your grave.
Well, no shit. And I'd spoken to other people since who'd had him, and they all thought he was trash. And juxtapose that to my con law.
This was
professor.
at University of Richmond.
Yeah. Juxtapose that to my con law professor, it was an hour and 15-minute class twice a week. And the class was full of idiots. You know, I don't judge people much. And I couldn't stand it because he was very Socratic. And when you're dealing with a bunch of people who are like, that doesn't seem very fair to me in class, it just was like, I can't do this. I could just sense at any moment I was going to jump up and just start screaming at the top of my lungs, shut up, you fucking idiot. Fairness has nothing to do with what we're discussing. So I didn't go a lot. I read all the cases. I kept up with the coursework. And he stopped me after graduation. I had my diploma in my hand, so there was nothing he could do. And he said, I've got a question for you, Miss last name. He said, you hardly ever came to my class. You got the second highest exam on my final score on my final. He said, how did you do that? And I said, no disrespect to you at all, because I thoroughly enjoyed your class. I read the coursework. I read the book. Ho hum. What do you want me to say? I felt terrible because he was a wonderful professor. It was just my fellow travelers were, and I had a good friend who was a sophomore, and she couldn't cut class like I could, and so she was there all the time. She said, "Of course they're idiots. You just have to deal. I mean, he really." I said, "I know he's wonderful, but they all need to stay home."
University of Richmond offers a very interesting coursework, and they only offer it as a minor, and it's called Law and the Liberal Arts, and it's an interdisciplinary minor that consists of courses, about the law, basically, and as they apply to that. It's an interdisciplinary minor that consists of courses from across the curriculum. The courses that count toward the major are among those that are generally recommended for law schools by students thinking about going to law school. Did they have that when you were going to school there?
No. There's very little in the way of interdisciplinary study.
Because it divides it into 8 areas. You actually take law courses, American history courses, economics, ethics, legal system, logical reasoning, public speaking, debate, and writing. I mean, it looks like just an amazing course.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun, a lot of hard work, but a lot of fun.
I would totally take this. I would totally take it.
And what's funny is the
reason that I asked was because the constitutional law course I suspect that you took, which is at University of Richmond, PLSC 331 in their catalog, constitutional law, which they offer as it doesn't count toward a law degree.
This was
in law school.
It's a poli-sci class.
Yeah. And that's what it says, poli-sci, PLSC 331. But 331 indicates that it's, kind of a junior level course, sophomore to junior level course.
Yeah. Well,
I'm reading here.
I'd taken intro to poli-sci. I had taken international affairs, law, politics, and the administration of justice, and that. Those are the 4 courses that I took.
See, that's the great thing about going to a place like University of Richmond. At a place like Northwestern, you can't take a law course. Mm-hmm. You can audit some of the medical school courses, but it's
law
basically
courses,
the
law school courses. Mm-hmm.
No, medical school courses.
But you can't.
Not the law school courses.
Oh,
that was the way when I was going.
Yeah.
That was the rule. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is I made sure I had basic intro to economics.
Yeah.
I was a history major. I took courses in political science. I took courses in English. I didn't have to take any American history, but I did. A horrible course that I took. And I did, what I did is I basically, in summer school, it was more of a pass-fail, almost an audit that I did of a survey of American history for a refresher.
Yeah.
Because it had been more than a decade at that point since I'd taken an American history course. But I took the CBATs in American history, and those were still accepted then. They didn't offer the ACT exams at my high school. It was just the College Board admission tests. And so I'd taken that in American history and placed out of it. I started as a sophomore in my history courses, which was nice because it meant I got to take some stuff that interested me rather than have to sit through fucking 6 hours of European history again, which would have been just, please no. Those long survey courses are just really tiresome. I find them terribly tiresome because I
just think it's great that a place like University of Richmond is flexible about this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and offers their undergraduates, in my opinion, a I was just looking through their.
Well, with a law school on
catalog.
campus, they like the idea of having a feeder program, I think. So
You might be right. It certainly could be. But anyway, I just think it's so that's outstanding.
Did you say feeder program?
yes. Not that they don't get plenty of applications from elsewhere.
So, hey, did you guys see this business between Ilhan Omar and Representative Boebert?
Bobert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the story with that? What happened there? Is this just a pissing contest between two publicity?
Basically, Lauren Boebert offered Ellen Omar a plate of bacon, and she was highly.
Did she really?
No.
Okay. No.
She
happened?
referred to her as a terrorist. She even.
Oh, this was the thing. She
publicly.
didn't have her backpack, so we ought to be okay.
Yes.
This was that comment.
Basically,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
And then they tried to have a phone call to because she publicly apologized, and then they had a phone call, and Boebert said it didn't go well.
Yeah. Ilhan Omar says, I want you to apologize for every perceived sin that's ever been committed by anyone ever. And Boebert told her to shove it up her ass, and I'm sure it terminated quickly after that.
Well, Boebert came within an inch of calling her a brother fucker on the floor of Congress. I mean, it was hilarious, the speech she gave. And I, and her, she was talking about the campaign funds that went to Omar's husband.
Mm-hmm.
And she
The brother
said,
husband or the other one?
Well, that's what she said. And she said, and I don't mean the brother husband. I mean the one she's married to now.
Right.
And I thought, I know what you wanted to say, girl. It was on the tip of your tongue. I laughed through the whole thing. I like Boebert's feistiness. I have to admit, I
do too.
But she's a brick shy of a load.
Well, yeah, but she's nowhere near the bird that Marjorie Taylor Greene is.
That's true, but she's her own particular brand of crazy.
She's boop shooby, but just not.
Yeah, this is Sarah Palin with better aim.
Maybe.
She's smarter than Palin, I think. Palin is an idiot. Palin is so insane. She
knows how to deal out them sick burns. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
right.
She had to go to 3 different places to get a communications degree. Palin.
Did she really?
Yeah, she went to 3 different universities to finally get her communications degree.
Yeah, but you had to call her Madam Governor, didn't you?
Caribou Barbie, all the things. I didn't particularly dislike Palin. She just.
Oh no.
She just. I mean, I kind of felt sorry for her considering how dysfunctional her family was. I felt sorry for them because growing up when your mom's governor is kind of a hassle.
I found her to be a great deal more refreshing than McCain.
McCain makes me sad.
Yeah, McCain is a sad case.
You can turn your back on Sarah Palin if you get my drift.
Well, McCain's one of those Republicans that didn't I can't remember if he was the one that left his dying wife pretty much on her deathbed, or am I confusing that with Newt?
That was Newt.
Yeah, that was Newt.
There was some pretty shitty behavior amongst that generation of Republicans. And Weld did something like that too, didn't he?
These guys.
Weld went and had an affair when his wife was dying of cancer. That's I believe, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Yeah, that's Hunter Biden level trash right there.
No, he'd be doing it with his niece if he was Hunter Biden, and
No, but Hunter was Roger.
Sorry, did I say that part out loud?
Yeah. Hunter's not particularly discriminating as long as they're a family member. And people make jokes about Arkansas. It's the political class as a whole is populated by a great number of egoists that are just obnoxious people
and degenerates.
Yeah, they are. Shit floats, buddy.
Well, they're numb. They're numb to the things that other people would find amazing because they've had it so good. So at a certain point, it's like, got to go out and get me some strange. It doesn't get much stranger than a lot of the crap that Hunter Biden's into.
Let me just say one quick thing about Sarah Palin. She basically went out to Hawaii, fucked around her freshman year in college, at University of Hawaii at Hilo, and then Hawaii Pacific University. She couldn't get settled down there, so she flitted back to the mainland but went to North Idaho College, which is in Coeur d'Alene. I know exactly where that is. There were doctors I used to visit who were very near that college, and she transferred and enrolled in the University of Idaho in Moscow.
That's a better school.
Moscow. Well, the thing is that North Idaho College is like a prep school for University of Idaho.
Yeah, University of Idaho is not a bad school.
It's not a bad school. It has terrible undergraduate housing. I'm sure they've done something about that since I was there. They used to have problems with finding housing for all the students. But it's an excellent school, and she that was where she did most of her work. Then she actually went to yet another college, Matanuska Susitna College in Alaska, and then returned to University of Idaho and finally got her bachelor's degrees in communications with an emphasis in journalism, May of 1987. So she took 5 years to get her degree.
No, she's not alone.
Went to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 colleges.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Well,
Girl.
Was she booted out of Idaho, or did she stay at home for finances? You don't know the reason. I mean, I understand the Hawaii.
The reason
the Hawaii thing.
The reason she went to Alaska was a family thing. I've read that story, and I think I read her book or something.
So at least she continued her
education. And then as soon as she could, she went back to University of Idaho to finish up.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the Hawaii deal, I can understand. I mean, she was born in Idaho, and then the family moved to Alaska. You go to Hawaii, and they want you to go to school.
Yeah.
You're 17, 18 years old, and they want you to go to school. Yeah, nah, I would have been... I don't know how many of us would have done well at that age in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see myself being much for class attendance.
Well, that's down in Honolulu in the heart of the tourist district.
It'd just be too much stuff going on. What you said, she was at Hilo, and then she transferred to over to Honolulu.
She went to the University of Hawaii at Hilo. She was supposed to go there and said, I don't want to go there. And they said, would you like to go to one of our affiliated universities? And they said, yeah, how about Hawaii Pacific? And that's where she went for a semester.
Yeah.
Just one semester. And then she went straight back to North Idaho College. And, that's where she did basically her first 2 years. And she picked up some extra credits from that Matanuska College in Alaska, and then went back to University of Idaho. So, at any rate, just
I think people place a little
analyzing.
I think people place
Sarah Palin.
a little too much premium on where people go to school.
Well, it's looking for a behavioral, clue. Is she irresponsible and flighty and crazy, or is she, really somebody we should be taking seriously? I think.
Alaska loved her. Alaska loved her for that Exxon settlement. I know that much.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, at this point in time, it's obvious that Harvard and all the Ivy League schools are like, just hotbeds for socialism, and the other colleges look up to that, right? They follow that lead, and and so we've got a shitload of influence going on. The sphere of influence is there.
Well, my alma mater gets an F from fire. They get an F
from who?
Fire. the organization that rates schools based on their freedom index for students.
Oh,
Yeah, they get an F.
Jesus.
It was a pretty damn conservative school when I was there. I mean, politics wasn't a big thing. It was the late 70s. God, it was the Carter years. Who wanted to be engaged in politics? It had eaten most of that decade alive, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And I mean, there were a fair few liberals there, but overall, the school was. I mean, one of my professors lamented that, there was like no war protest movement on the campus or any of that. Well, it was a Baptist affiliated school for a long, long time. And it just was apathy, maybe, is how you would define those 4 years. I mean, I was in a class full of people who were extremely active in student activities and that kind of thing. But there was a great deal of ennui in that age. The malaise, but I've watched them. I mean, I knew something was up because I made a smart ass comment on an article that was posted. It was on one of the alumni pages or something the college paper had written about somebody who'd driven their car out onto West Hampton Lake when it was frozen and it sunk. And I made the comment that they were clearly not a physics major. And they banned the comment. And I was like, yeah, but it's pretty clear they weren't a physics major. Because they spun off the road onto the lake.
Yeah, that's ableist, I think.
Yeah,
you're accusing it's mentally ableist.
They're bad drivers, what they were.
Yeah.
If you understand physics better than another person, does that make you a physicist?
No, but it should. If you're an ableist,
seems like it would.
Well, it will soon enough. Now that you've suggested it, the Twitter sphere will get a hold of it, and the new CEO will tell us.
I was just reading through Northwestern University's policy on institutional equity, harassment. Allow me to share a couple of lines of this with you. The speech code rating, by the way, is red and by FIRE, speech code category harassment policies. And it says harassment. Prohibited harassment is verbal or physical conduct or conduct using technology directing toward someone because of their membership or perceived membership in a protected class that has the purpose or effect of 1, substantially interfering with, limiting, or depriving a member from accessing or participating in an academic or employment environment and or substantially interfering with an individual's academic performance or work performance. So that's the interfering part. Then the second one is creating an academic or working environment that a reasonable person would consider to be intimidating, hostile, or offensive. A reasonable person would consider intimidating, hostile, or offensive. A person's subjective belief that the behavior is intimidating, hostile, or offensive does not make that behavior prohibited harassment under this policy. The behavior must create a hostile environment and or substantially interfere with access to a university program or activity from an objective perspective. Examples of harassment include, this is the part I love, offensive jokes related to a protected class, the use of slurs and stereotypes related to a protected class, name calling related to a protected class, intimidation, ridicule, or mockery connected to a protected class, displaying or circulating offensive objects and pictures that are based on a protected class. Now, you're a freshman at Northwestern and you get this and you say, what is the first thing that you do? Well, you figure out which protected class you're going to join. Yes. This looks like great fun. I can get people in trouble and I'll have power. I'm an 18-year-old shithead.
Yep.
Good God.
I love the protected class. What,
Yes.
pray tell, is a protected class?
Well, like black people would be a protected class.
Oh, no, I know how they would define it, Skep.
But Jews would not be,
Yeah.
for example,
There's
because they
too
are
many
evil.
of them.
Right. Well, they're too successful. They
Too
run
successful.
the banking system, you know,
Mhm.
blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You know,
You can't punch down,
anti-Semitic
Skep.
nonsense.
That's
Right.
that's the way it works. You're not allowed to. Yeah, there's no hierarchy, but you can't punch down.
You can't punch down.
But there's no
If-
hierarchy,
But there's no hierarchy. Just,
and everybody's equal
yes.
and the same.
yes.
But the protected
Identical.
class.
But you can't punch down.
But the protected class.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, honest to God, what I wish there was a way to get into the minds of the people who dwell within these protected classes.
Oh God, no.
Oh, yeah.
well,
Due
no, I
process rating, we get an F also, by the way. I just wanted to point that out.
beat my way through the cobwebs and the hurt feelings.
I wouldn't want to touch something like that.
No, I don't mean into their mind. I mean sink it into their skulls.
Oh, you mean give them a little tap with the clue by 4?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Four, absolutely.
Yeah,
the clue stick.
and point out to them that
There's
they're
a clue on
being
one end and an idiot on the other.
that they're being described like you describe a pet.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
Bless his heart. He couldn't find the DMV. He probably doesn't know how to read a map and doesn't have a phone. And if he does have a phone, doesn't have any data service.
Probably doesn't even know how to read.
Yeah,
This is the
those chubby little
condes-
fingers and those tiny little keys.
I got one of them new flip phones.
The condescension is just so grotesque. And instead people are lapping it up because they're assholes.
Mhm.
How can I game this? I mean, you can't blame people for wanting to game the system, especially when they skew the system like this. You know, they've got their whole fist resting on the scale. Go for it. You know, it's just God.
Stephen Hawking made a chilling comment years ago. And I remember thinking about this when he said it. He said the greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance. It is the illusion of knowledge.
Mm.
And when people become delusional and believe they know something, that's when dangerous, bad things happen.
Yeah, that's how you get
Because they're certain. Yeah, exactly.
you get the Holodomor.
Yeah, or you get the terror.
You get the terror, yeah, or you
Yeah.
get
The Biden White House.
or you get the final solution.
Yeah, or the Biden White House, exactly.
Mhm.
Sometimes with a whimper, not a bang.
Yeah, it doesn't say anywhere you can't just print money.
It doesn't say anywhere. It doesn't say that anywhere. You're kidding. That's
Yeah.
huge. Let's get on with it. Yeah, and now these guys are amazed that inflation is here and it doesn't look like it's going away. Who could
Yeah, I
have
know.
predicted that?
Who did
Uh,
predict that?
Yeah, the entire von Mises Institute, for one thing. Rand predicted it. Even Brookings predicted it.
Yeah.
Good
So
God.
how many minutes can we talk about economics before we lose all of our audience?
Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
No, it's
probably
okay
have
because
taken this
I can make a really brief comment about this.
Yeah, what's that?
It doesn't, outside of the new monetary theorists who think that money's just a concept, man, you can print as much as you want. It doesn't make any difference. Other than that,
Right.
bunch of idiots.
Right.
If you look at it from like a Keynesian perspective, what happens when the government borrows a bunch of money to spend on things? It heats up the economy,
Hmm.
which causes scarcity, which drives up prices. Okay,
Right.
so there's the Keynesian view. What you're doing is causing inflation based on the kind of monetary theory that they used in the JFK White House, right?
Right.
Same stuff Lyndon B. Johnson used, a lot of people that. If you look at it from a monetary perspective, you're printing a bunch of money. It's going to cause inflation. Okay. You look at it from an Austrian perspective. You're borrowing a bunch of money. You got all this debt that you got to service. You're going to cause inflation.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what school of economics. There's just this group of complete idiots that they've somehow allowed in their ranks that are telling them things that are just pure fairy tales. You know,
Well,
it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, well,
we can just
it
do whatever
starts.
we want.
It starts with people like Paul Krugman.
It's a social construct. The economy is a social construct. It
It's
is
just a
what we
number.
say it is.
Yeah, it's just a number, and we write down the number, and
there's no
we write
reality.
down yeah, exactly. You know, perception is reality.
Yeah,
that's right. But the problem with doing that is there are some very real physical things that happen with respect to the condition of the currency, and when you do not have a significant increase in economic output by a country, but you print a whole bunch of that country's currency, you're going to have the same level of goods and services, being chased and in turn chasing way too many dollars. And when that happens, things get very sluggish. An economy can really get sluggish because suddenly it takes a lot more of those devaluing dollars. And once they start to devalue, once inflation is there, it is wickedly hard to get rid of. It's an easy disease to contract. It's hard to get well from it. It takes a long time. It took essentially, depending on how you look at it, 6 or 8 years from Nixon's wage and price controls, which fucked the country unbelievably badly.
Dumbass.
And it sank the Carter presidency. I mean, Jimmy Carter didn't really lose the presidency. He was not an inspiring person, and he was ripe to get knocked off for his reelection bid, and he did. Reagan knocked him off, but it's not really. It wasn't really anything he did. It was his inability to recover from the wage price controls that started around 1969.
There was some dinner table chatter when that went into play that I recall, because I remember thinking, gee, I thought my parents supported Nixon, because my dad was like, that's just goddamn stupid.
Oh, yeah. Assassin of the Grey saying, he says they want Americans pushing around wheelbarrows full of cash for a single loaf of bread, harkening back to post-World War II Germany, where that literally was true.
It would be good exercise.
And because then the government has to save them. Well, you might consider that hyperbole on the part of my friend, the Assassin of the Grey, but I think he's actually right on the money. This is all about creating a population that is dependent on government,
enthralled to government,
and that is led by government rather than a country that is led by the people. Who will be a country led by our government. And you can run a country that way, but it's not near as much fun. There isn't near as much opportunity. And the other thing is that it slows down the ability of people to make progress within an economy.
Oh, it slows down progress.
Station improvement is...
It slows down progress everywhere.
Absolutely. It's almost like a class system.
Yeah, and it's stultifying. Look at Europe.
Think of the vigorous black market we'd probably get, though, because we haven't had a black market in a technologically sophisticated country.
Yeah,
you could easily see people trading in cryptocurrencies and coming up with all sorts of unregulated goods.
Read Cryptonomicon, or read the Crypto Anarchists manifesto by my old friend Tim May. He talks about that, about being able to do transactions that have absolutely no visibility to the government. Taking government completely out of the commercial realm.
Yeah, how refreshing.
We could do that.
Yeah, we could. It won't happen, I'm afraid, because they're going to find some way. They'll just shut down our power. You've got these people who, oh my God, because of gas rationing in certain areas, and, the fuel costs, and everybody talking about fuel, you can tell how people live by how they react to these kinds of things. because they've been braying on Twitter and braying on the public airwaves. Well, we shouldn't be driving gas guzzling cars anyway. You shouldn't drive. You should take public transportation. And I'm like, okay, now do fuel oil.
Yeah.
Now do fuel oil, asshole. Because this isn't just affecting the cost of your ability to drive your car or get your groceries. You're going to have people choosing between heat and eat because it's going to drive up their energy costs in heating their homes. And you are going to have vulnerable people who are already vulnerable, rendered more vulnerable because of that.
Mm-hmm.
You want to live in Michigan without fuel oil? Smart ass.
Yep.
I've got a Tesla. Ha ha. Yeah. What happens when the power grid is so managed as to the needs of the government, not the needs of the people?
Yeah.
How's that sound? They never think past that. It's that fucking cognitive dissonance. They're wrapped up in their climate crisis, and we're going to combine all how wonderful inflation is for helping the climate.
How dare you?
Fucking assholes don't realize the entirety of Canada and the northern tier of the United States could freeze to death.
I have another stupid thing for you. I thought it was really funny. I started laughing when I heard it. They were talking about Build Back Better. And one part of it was they've been going around and showing these things in the local news, because, of course, local news is totally independent. And they're definitely not all owned by one of 6 different companies. And they're talking about, oh, we've got this bridge, and it's in such bad repair. How are we going to get money to fix this bridge? Mm-hmm. Oh, we need Joe Biden to print a bunch of money, so we'll have money to fix this bridge, so we need to build back better. And I go, wait a second. Are these the same bridges that have the tolls on them, that when people drive over them and then they basically paid for themselves like 20 years after they were built, and then they just keep collecting tolls that go into the general fund? You mean those bridges?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Those are the bridges that you can't maintain unless we give you a bunch of money?
That's right, because they use the money from the tolls for other things, because the bridges didn't need maintaining them, so they didn't save up the money to maintain the bridges later, because they figured maybe bridge maintenance would get a lot cheaper.
But they could just raise the toll on the bridge by 50 cents and then have the people who use the bridge pay for the bridge. Sorry, Irate.
No, that's cool.
But why should the people who use the bridge pay for the bridge's upkeep? Why shouldn't everyone pay their fair share?
Yeah, there should be like a bridge mandate that says you pay for the bridge even if you don't use the bridge.
That's my Diana Moon.
Try this one on public education, Harry.
Oh, I was already thinking of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people were making that. I don't have any kids. Why should I be paying taxes toward the schools? Because the world is a better place when everyone is educated. Well, over the course of my lifetime, I find this to be questionable. Let me just put it that way. You're not doing a bang up job so far with that education thing that I'm paying for. I with no children. I'd rather cut somebody a check to homeschool their kids.
I don't know if y'all saw this on Twitter, but the Babylon Bee posted a thing saying Pope Francis says COVID vaccine will now be required to enter heaven.
Seems legit.
It's a mandate. It's a heavenly mandate.
I got to get my heaven booster.
Well, I feel guilty for cutting off Irate a moment ago, so I'm going to ask Irate a question. Did you, by any chance, see in the news that the International Olympic Committee has changed the rules on transgender athletes competing in the Olympics?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
Tell me more.
Let me send Skep the link.
What is this now? I'm sorry.
All I was going to say
you
about
guys
that,
haven't heard about this. Okay.
the Build Back Better thing is just a money grab, man.
Yeah, of course it is.
Of course it is.
It's reallocation of funds. That's all it is.
Mhm.
It would
Going
be a
into
lot
next-
easier if I could just drive and over to point out the house where you want me to give my money.
Oh,
To,
this is
you know,
this is big fun. The IOC recently released its long anticipated new guidelines regarding transgender and intersex athletes. Rather than set out rules for international and national sports federations to follow, the IOC framework instead proposed that eligibility rules for these athletes follow 10 principles. First one, inclusion. Second, prevention of harm. Third, non-discrimination. Then fairness, no presumption of advantage, evidence-based approach, primacy of health and bodily autonomy, stakeholder-centered approach, right to privacy, and periodic abuse. There's plenty of weeds for them to hide in and do any fucking thing they want.
my God, but they say like to mitigate harm, right, is one of the things. But it's you're don't. There's no difference.
Well, the interesting thing, this framework replaces the 2015 IOC guidelines that required trans women to lower their testosterone for 12 months before competing in the women's division. The new framework makes inclusion the first of the guiding principles and drops the testosterone suppression requirements, both substantial shifts for the organization. So you can go in a full boat-loaded brute man full of testosterone, dripping testosterone, and
tell them you're trans,
and you got a gold medal. And
and you might get to kill some girls in the course of the fun and games.
It's ma'am.
The emphasis on inclusion is a welcome contrast to bans of trans females from the women's sports by 10 U.S. states, including Texas, and the ban of trans females from the women's category in international matches by World Rugby. There are, however, two of the IOC principles that are troublesome. The suggestion that trans women have advantages over cisgender women is not presumptive. On average, trans women are taller, bigger, and stronger than cis women, and these are advantages in many sports. Advantages, however, are an integral part of sports, and there is no evidence that trans women who have undergone testosterone suppression are disproportionately successful in women's sport.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Like for the relays, right, was whatever, I don't follow sports ball, but like for something like a relay race, you could mandate that there's like one dude, one woman, one trans dude, and that's your 4-person team.
Yeah.
And then that would be fair, right?
No, because where's your transsexual Latinx?
And you're transabled.
Yeah.
Oh,
What about blind runners? How many blind runners are you going to have on that relay team?
Well, you just put the bot stats out, and then they can just sort of run using Braille. It's fine.
Braille running.
Yeah.
In fact, trans women remain underrepresented at all levels of sport because people can either be trans women or not trans women. So 50% of all sport must be trans women.
Yeah, because
one chance out of two.
Because
most
there's
notably in the NCAA. Which implemented hormone therapy-based eligibility requirements for trans women in 2011.
How dare they? The interesting thing is that you can drop testosterone levels, but you have not changed bone density. It does not change. It does not change that quickly. You're not going to see a bone density change until much later in life, if even then.
It can be 4 or 5 years, seriously,
or longer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, in about 7 years, you would expect a full readjustment to take place.
Well, yeah,
because it really is that will have replaced a lot of that.
Yeah, just wait for the osteoporosis, folks. This ought to be entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Because if people think males can already get osteoporosis, hint. It's just not as common.
You mean non-birthing people?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure what the new terms are.
Oh God, I don't know either.
But I mean, obviously, I think the whole thing with the hormone levels was, we want you to at least make a good faith effort to transition as opposed to us just
Yes.
just being like a transgender and saying I've never felt so free, and then
Yeah, like
saying
like
I'm a woman today.
you mentioned Macho Man, ma'am,
Macho man, yeah.
Macho Man, Tranny Savage. Yeah, that it's ma'am. Yeah, okay, whatever, dude.
Yeah. We could just get rid of gender as a category and just
That's what I think we should do.
Yes,
we should just do it. I think it's just poison pill the whole thing, because there are certainly sports where women have an advantage.
Yeah.
I don't see a bunch of guys going in and taking over
let's
a lot of the gymnastics stuff.
Let the best athletes play.
I can't wait though. What events are you gonna have in the gymnastics?
The problem is they're going to demand.
I want to see women do
inclusion.
the Iron Cross. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. I want to see women do the palm.
Yeah, but you want to see a dude do the balance beam.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, I want to see Tess Holliday do the balance beam.
Have some mercy. Have some
We
mercy.
need a bigger beam.
You need an I beam for that.
You're gonna need a bigger beam, man.
Just swinging an I beam.
Get an I beam.
Set it up. It's a little wider, but it's only fair.
You realize if she fell off a hobby horse, she'd probably die.
It's triggering when I heard the word truss.
You said triggering right after he said hobby horse, and I'm like, yeah, I know. God, Roy Rogers jokes. Yeah. Oh my God, I have some mercy for the balance beam. We bring in an I beam; it'll be fun.
Yeah. So
my hands are cold. Too bad. We've got this thing here that needs to compete.
Tess Holliday can live her life any way she wants. What I don't like is the fact that we're supposed to buy into her healthy at any size thing. If I saw her and she was being a pleasant enough individual, I would be pleasant. But I wouldn't be required to lie to her about how she's killing herself. I'd be like,
Yeah, but I mean, you don't expect the floor exercise to be mukbang, and you don't expect somebody's theme music to be Hungry Hungry Hippos.
Ooh, mukbang is an Olympic event. That
Snap.
Now
you're talking. Yeah.
You're representing the United States, Kobayashi.
Yeah,
this
it
is
was
interesting.
Nothing but South Korea.
Isn't that the hot dog eating champion? Isn't it Kobayashi or
the Kobayashi Maru?
Yeah, that was a Star Trek thing. But anyway, model Tess Holliday reveals she's recovering from anorexia. Holliday says that she hopes her announcement helps stops the idea that only very underweight people can have anorexia. And a very unanorexic looking Tess Holliday arrives at the 62nd annual Grammy Awards in Los Angeles on 26th January 2020. Eating disorder campaigners have hailed a decision by the American plus-size model Tess Holliday to announce she's receiving treatment for anorexia, saying she is helping to stop the idea that only very underweight people can have anorexia. Holliday, who has 2.1 million followers on Instagram and has been featured on the pages of Vogue, unlike President Trump's wife, who was an actual model, recently wrote on Twitter, "I'm anorexic and in recovery." Whatever that means. I'm the result of a
robust recovery.
I'm the result of a culture that celebrates thinness and equates that to worth, but I get to write my own narrative now. I'm finally able to care for a body that I've punished my entire life, and I'm finally free to eat as many calories per minute as I want to. And Tom Quinn, external director of eating disorder charity Beat, said Holliday speaking out about her struggle was vital in terms of shining a light on the issue.
Are they going to give her the Karen Carpenter Hero Award?
the Heart Safety Award.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't expect that her heart attack's genesis is going to be an anorexia.
Do you know how marbled her liver and heart are with
how do you palpate it? How do you palpate her liver?
You palpate it just feels hard as a rock.
But I'm saying, how can you even tell where the liver is?
Well, no, you really can tell when he gets enlarged like that. And these people,
Now I know.
alcoholics know all about palping
Hmm.
because it gets hard as a rock. Those fatty deposits that get on the fundus of the liver are that just make it. And you'll see doctors, they'll pat a guy on the back, and the next thing that will come out of the doctor's mouth is, "How much you drinking?" Because they already know how much you drink.
They hit a brick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I say this as someone whose liver finally softened. It took years for my liver to really recover from my drinking, and it's something that is immediately evident. I mean, you really can feel it.
Yeah, and and when the doctor gets you on your back and decides to like poke up under your rib cage and down, it's like, oh look, things move.
Yeah, yeah. I can feel things that aren't a liver.
I was surprised when the doc went after mine that there wasn't a little voice from inside me going, "I surrender."
Yeah, I'm coming out. My hands are up.
That was my pancreas actually waving the red flag. Tell her to stop eating sweet tarts.
But at any rate, well, I get the sense that we're kind of running out of energy here. Does anybody have anything on their minds?
I'm just trying to picture Tess Holliday as the poster child for anorexia. I know that we have a fixed picture of anorexia nervosa, and that is basically the tragic skeletal image. You know, you look at what became of Karen Carpenter, and it was just heart-wrenching to see that somebody still viewed themselves as fat
and
when they were skeletal.
Minions of the Zoo. For those of you who wonder what I'm talking about, it is a there it is. This is Tess Holliday. And that is
oops, that's Skep Talk.
Didn't think that would do that. All right. Anyway, I was seeing if I could embiggen this even more, but when to embiggen it, you can get all of Tess Holliday you want. This is the lady with anorexia. She certainly looks anorexic.
So you weren't reading a Babylon Bee article?
No. That was real. That was real stuff. That was
so that was news. That was not the
From
Onion
Yahoo.
On a rare funny day.
That was Yahoo News.
You're seriously. What's the date on this thing? On this article?
Very recent. Very recent.
Current day.
Yeah.
So you're not kidding.
No.
I'm really not kidding. No fooling.
I'm not. I'm having trouble processing what you just what you just said. You're seriously telling me that Tess Holliday had anorexia, or is claiming to have had anorexia.
Oh yeah,
she's in treatment for it.
She should get a septuple X T-shirt that says "Winning Against Anorexia."
This is.
She could wear that as a headband. I'm not sure a sextuple would work.
This is bulimia
is good. I'll put.
Yeah, now I could see her being bulimic.
Right. That would be probably more accurate.
Yeah, I can't. I just can't see the anorexia. I can see the bulimia. That I would understand. But God Almighty.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Well, there are a couple things on my mind. One is I'm having a lot of trouble getting super annoyed at Fredo Cuomo. You know, this whole thing about him helping his brother. I kind of understand his point. A lot of people are very pissed off at, the fact that he used his sources and did all these things. But the guy is his brother, and even though they seem to hate each other, I understand intellectually why he did something really wrong, but I'm really having trouble working up a good head of steam to care.
Well, because he's such an ineffectual little crud.
But I can dislike him for other reasons. I mean, I don't like the guy, but this particular thing,
You can't
I don't care.
muster up the dudgeon.
Yeah,
Ted Cruz is enjoying the fuck out of it.
Yeah, I know he is.
Yeah, he's having fun with it. But
Well,
I know I get what Harry's saying. You know, it's like what do you expect? It's like their relationship.
It's the frog and the scorpion, basically.
Right,
it's like,
dude.
yeah,
exactly.
I'm a scorpion. What'd you expect?
Well, I mean, there had been that 2 months ago, the news of him squeezing that woman's ass at that Christmas party came out and went, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay.
Well, I wonder if we have Me Too fatigue. I mean, I had Me Too fatigue 5 minutes after it started.
Me Too fatigue.
Yeah.
Well, if it was something real, I would be upset. I don't want to see people be, taken advantage of and exploited and groomed and all
this
the
was
other
his former
things.
boss whose ass he squeezed.
Again, I'm just a bad person, but it seems like a them problem.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a me problem.
Yeah, I hear that.
I'm more interested in the federal judge pulling the plug nationwide on the mandate for healthcare workers.
Yeah, and the whole Rittenhouse not going to Arizona State thing, I thought was another good story.
Oh my God, that's something that is. I want to know.
Is he not going there now?
We don't feel safe him taking online classes at our university. It's like, oh.
I just want to know: are there any inmates taking online classes at Arizona State University?
Oh, I guarantee you there are.
Yeah. So if there are, and these little turds are upset by somebody who a jury of his peers exonerated, they can kiss everybody's ass. But I bet you Arizona capitulates.
Supposedly he didn't sign up for classes. And he's no longer a student there, but they supposedly didn't do anything.
Oh, shame on them. Yeah, I mean, these student body groups, they don't feel safe because somebody somewhere is looking something up on the internet. They just, I mean, these are the people that I don't feel safe knowing that they breathe air. We need to get them on a cattle car and move them out of my town.
I feel you.
Yeah, Rittenhouse was studying nursing. I think that's the chosen profession.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's such a killer,
With the amount of money he's going to get from these lawsuits, he could probably just pay John Campbell to tutor him.
No kidding. I mean,
boy, that would probably turn you into a hell of a nurse. I get the feeling that guy knows everything.
He certainly, and when he doesn't, he says so very quickly, which leads you to believe
so logical.
He knows so much more than he owns up to knowing. He processes information very well, and he translates it very well. He's very good at demonstration when he was trying to explain the function of the new drug and
he's a master of analogy.
Yes. Yeah, the taped scissors and
that was brilliant.
It was a very, very
maybe
good.
Maybe not brilliant, but very.
It's probably it may be a common method of teaching about those kinds of drugs that are inhibitors. But whoever came up with the analogy, it's a brilliant one because visually you get it immediately.
There were some minor technical problems with that.
Yes, he
video,
did have to own up. He did have to own up to the.
Well, I mean, even beyond that, he's not wrong about the overall big story, but there were some technical issues with his. Was it 3CL binding? His interpretation of the 3CL binding stuff in that paper. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying there's a possibility he was wrong about the way he interpreted that paper.
Okay. Be interesting to see down the road. One of the things about the inhibition, the binding inhibition, that had been noted was the relationship of smokers to the group of COVID patients at large, because we're considered to be extremely high risk. But then there's that ACE2 thing that's also known about smokers. About ACE2 receptors being already inhibited by smoking. And that can be a problem in other spheres, but not a problem when it comes to something like COVID. But we'll never, I mean, I swear to God, we're never going to know the real picture, because it's like the way the CDC presents Florida as having a moderate transmission rate of COVID, and then you clink county by county by county by county by county by county, and they're reporting no new cases at all.
Yeah.
I have to step away. And
we're at the 2-hour mark. We're about to say
good night, everybody.
Night, Harry.
Harry is going to say good night.
Good
And
night, Harry.
pass it around here. Thank you, Harry. Harry just left the stream.
Yeah, because he's got a meeting.
Well, okay. He can't even come back. Anyway. So, at any rate, it is the time of the evening when we pass it around the horn one last time. Irate, any words of wisdom, anything you wanted to lay on our group? Any shill and chill you wanted to get out there?
Yeah. Tomorrow it'll be accelerated deconstruction. I believe we'll be, I guess, closing up our analysis of the Rittenhouse thing. And Thursday, I will be interviewing Rob Noor, like I was talking about earlier. He is a right wing. He's really a Twitch guy, right? But he's a brilliant debater, and I'm really, really pumped to get him as a interview. And Friday night is Cream Stream number 200.
Okay, excellent.
Yay! Yeah.
Boy, I can't believe it.
It's gonna be crazy. JJ Stoner is going to join us. 200
went by in a New York minute, didn't it? Probably seems a lot longer for you. It probably does. Well, anyway, thank you for being here. Prospero, did you have anything you wanted to close out with this evening?
Not particularly.
Right.
Just, oh my gosh, by golly, it's time for mistletoe and holly.
I
That's
hear
right.
you. Notice Jenna has joined. Jenna, we're just saying good night. Was there anything you wanted to say to the audience before we end the stream and go directly into the post-stream stream?
Hi, bye.
All right, guys. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you, panel, for being a part of this. Thank you, chat, for coming out and listening to us prattle on for a couple of hours. We do this for you. But we do it for ourselves too. It's a pretty good time. And but I want to thank you for joining us, and leave you with Albert Einstein said the true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. And I think he was right. That's going to do it for us tonight, though. And we'll see you at the same bat time, same bat channel tomorrow. Or next week, I mean, and tomorrow, I believe, is Wednesdays with Skep with Blind Press. I was hoping
that was last week,
or maybe that was last week.
I think it's Canadian.
It might be Canadian Wednesday tomorrow. Canadian Wednesday. One way or the other, she's going to have an interesting show tomorrow, and if I'm not on it, I will be tuned in, and I commend you to do the same thing. So, at any rate, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thanks for coming out, everybody. The zoo is closed. Good night.
Later, fam.